Darren sat alone in his small house on the rocky edge of Earth's moon. The sky outside was black, and only the stars gave a little light. He had not spoken to anyone for days. After 20 years in the Special Forces, Darren had left the noise behind. Now silence was his only friend. His home was quiet, filled with old war medals, a few books, and one photo on the wall, a picture of him and his younger brother, Mika. Mika was smiling in the photo, standing in front of a school on the colony planet Halden 4. He had always loved teaching. Darren had always been the fighter. They were different, but they had loved each other like brothers do. One evening, Darren's tablet beeped. A new message had arrived. The sender was Mika. Darren's hands shook as he opened the file. The video began to play. Mika's face appeared on screen, but it didn't look the same. His lip was cut. There was a bruise under his eye. He looked tired, scared. "Darren," Mika said, his voice low and broken. "I didn't want to send this, but I don't know what else to do. I think something bad is going to happen." Darren leaned forward. His heart began to beat faster. "There's a group of students at my school, Halden Prime Academy. They are not just bullies. They hurt others for fun. They use advanced tech to scare the weak kids. Drones, electric tools. They even record it and laugh." Mika paused and looked around like someone might be watching. "I tried to stop them. I went to the head teacher. He told me to stay out of it. One of the boys, Rollo, his father is the planetary governor. That's why no one says anything. The staff are scared. Even the parents look the other way." Darren clenched his fist. He knew this story too well. Power always protected power. "I think they're watching me now," Mika said, looking over his shoulder. "If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. I'm not giving up, Darren. These kids ... They need someone to stand up for them. Someone strong." Just then, there was a loud crash in the background. Mika jumped. A door slammed open behind him. "Mika!" Someone shouted off screen. Mika's eyes widened. He quickly turned to the camera. "If anything happens, please." The screen went black. The message ended. Darren stared at the screen for a long time. He played it again and again. The next morning, a public report came through the colony news feed. Halden 4 teacher found dead. Ruled a suicide. Officials say it was caused by stress and emotional breakdown. No foul play suspected. Darren's eyes burned. "Lies," he whispered. He contacted the local authority on Halden 4, but they refused to reopen the case. The teacher had personal problems, they said. "We're sorry, but it's closed." But Darren knew his brother. Mika was soft-hearted, but never weak. He loved his students. He would never take his own life. Something had happened, something dark, and Darren couldn't ignore it. For the first time in years, he opened the locked drawer in his cabinet. Inside was his old Special Forces badge, a small plasma pistol, and a black card with access codes. He touched the badge and remembered who he once was. "I may be retired," he said, "but I'm not finished." 3 weeks later, Darren arrived on Halden 4. He wore a plain coat, carried a small bag, and walked with calm steps. His name had been changed. His ID showed a fake record. Mr. Darrow, a qualified teacher from Earth with years of experience. The school had been short on staff. They were happy to take him in. Halden Prime Academy stood tall at the center of the colony. Its walls were white, clean, and shining with tech. Robotic guards moved through the halls. Security cameras watched every corner. Students walked in perfect order, wearing their smart uniforms. But something felt wrong. Darren entered the classroom where Mika once taught. A few students sat silently, avoiding eye contact. Others whispered to each other, hiding their devices. He saw one boy, small, wearing glasses, flinch as a bigger student bumped into him. The bigger one smiled cruelly and kept walking. The weak were afraid. The strong were proud. Darren had seen this before in war zones and battle camps he took. A deep breath and spoke in a clear voice. "Good morning. I'm your new teacher, Mr. Darrow. Let's begin." That night, Darren watched old-school camera footage. He had hacked into the system through a hidden port in the staff room. Hours of recordings played on his tablet. What he saw made his stomach turn. Students being cornered. Electric shocks used in games. Flying drones chasing smaller kids across halls, staff ignoring it all. In one clip, Mika stood in front of a group of students, shouting at Rollo, trying to stop him. The staff pulled Mika away. Rollo laughed. Darren paused the video. He stared at Rollo's face. "So that's you," he whispered. "You led this." He opened a file and started taking notes: names, faces, habits. He marked every student in the gang. He marked every teacher who stayed silent. He would not move quickly. He would not fight with fists. He would gather, prepare, and strike when the time was right. For now, he would be the quiet teacher in the corner, but inside, the soldier had returned. The next morning, Darren stood in front of the tall mirror in the teacher's dorm. He wore the standard academy uniform, a plain gray coat, soft black trousers, and a slim datapad attached to his wrist. On the outside, he looked like any other teacher. Calm, quiet, unimportant. But behind his eyes, there was fire. He had only one goal: to find out what really happened to Mika and to make those responsible pay. Not with weapons, not like the battlefield. This time, he would use their own system against them. Darren walked through the halls of Halden Prime Academy. The corridors were wide and full of light, with smooth metal walls and screens showing news, weather, and student rankings. The school looked perfect. But as he passed by, he noticed something strange. Students didn't smile. They didn't talk freely. Their steps were stiff, their eyes always watching. Something cold was in the air. Not just rules. Fear. In his first class of the day, he met a group of 10 students. They sat in perfect rows. No one whispered. No one asked questions. It felt unnatural. Darren scanned the room. In the front sat Ina, a smart-looking girl with sharp eyes and tightly braided hair. Her hands were folded, her datapad ready. She watched Darren with quiet curiosity. Near the window sat Ravi, a thin boy with glasses too big for his face. His eyes stayed low, and he flinched whenever a student behind him moved. Darren took a closer look. The boy's collar had a small burn mark. A fresh one. Behind Ravi sat a tall, broad student with a smug face. Taro, one of Rollo's known friends. Darren had already seen him in the school's secret video footage. He liked to play rough games with the weaker ones when no one was looking. "Good morning," Darren said. "Good morning, sir," the class replied, voices flat and dry. Darren gave them a soft smile. "Today, we won't use datapads. We'll use something older, our hands and our heads." The class looked confused. He handed out small blank sheets and pencils. Some students hadn't used these in years. Darren watched as Ina quickly started writing. But Ravi hesitated, holding the pencil like it was unfamiliar. From behind him, Taro whispered, "Don't break it this time, Bug Eyes." Ravi's hand shook. The pencil dropped. Darren caught it before it hit the floor. "No need to rush," he said gently to Ravi, placing the pencil back on the desk. "We all learn at our own speed." Ravi looked up, surprised. Taro leaned back, smirking. But Darren had already made a mental note. After the class, Darren walked through the teacher's lounge. A few staff members sat around, sipping hot drinks and reading reports. He approached a middle-aged woman with silver hair tied in a bun. "Miss Velna, the history teacher, you've been here a long time?" Darren asked casually. She nodded. 12 years. Too long, maybe." Darren sat beside her. "I'm new. Just trying to understand the school better. Anything I should watch out for?" Miss Velna looked around, then leaned closer. Her voice dropped. "If you want to stay here, keep your head down. Don't ask questions. Teach your class and go home. Darren raised an eyebrow. Why? There are students here with power that goes beyond the school. If you cross the wrong one, you won't be teaching long. She stood and walked away without saying more. Later that day, Darren visited the school records room. He had requested access to old files, pretending he needed lesson plans left by Mika. A young assistant gave him a few digital folders and left him alone. Darren plugged in a small tool to the data screen, an old military scanner that searched hidden and deleted files. It scanned quickly and quietly. Within minutes, he found a hidden folder marked Private MV. Mika's initials. Inside were reports, photos, notes, all from Mika. They told the story of what had been happening. One note stood out. Rollo and his group run the school. The teachers pretend not to see. I've spoken up 3 times. The dean warned me to stop, but I won't. Darren's jaw tightened. He downloaded the file onto his tablet and shut down the scanner. The school bell rang at the end of the day. Darren walked past the open training yard. A group of students stood in a circle. In the middle, Ravi was on the ground, clutching his stomach. Taro stood over him, laughing. Another boy was holding a drone with a glowing red tip. Darren stepped forward. What's going on here? Taro turned. We're just practicing a science demo, sir. Looks more like bullying to me, Darren replied calmly. It's just a game, Taro said with a grin. Darren didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He only stared into Taro's eyes with the quiet look of a man who had seen war. Taro looked away. Go inside, Darren said. Now, the group scattered. Darren helped. Ravi up, are you okay? Ravi nodded, still breathing hard. You're stronger than you think, Darren said softly. You just need the right people around you. Ravi looked up. For the first time he smiled. That night, Darren sat in his room, going through the files. Again, he added Taro's name to the list. Rollo's was already there. So was the dean. And 3 more students who had been part of Mika's last class. Darren's plan was forming, slowly, carefully. He couldn't fight them like he did in the army, not with weapons. Not with force. He had to break them from inside, for now he was just Mr. Darrow, the quiet teacher. But soon, they would know who he really was, and they would remember the name Mika. The next week began quietly at Halden Prime Academy, but something had already started to change. Something small. Like a spark, Darren stood in front of his class, holding a small ball made of rubber. The students looked confused. We're going to do something different today, he said. He tossed the ball gently to Ravi, who nearly dropped it. The class snickered, but Darren didn't react. Instead, he walked over to the whiteboard and wrote a word. Control. This is what I want to teach you today, Darren said. Not just in writing or math, but in your body, your mind, and your heart. Taro muttered something under his breath, but Darren ignored it. He continued, leading the class through light movement drills, balance, breathing, hand-eye exercises. Most students didn't understand the point, but a few like Aina and Ravi paid attention. By the end of the class, Ravi was able to catch the ball with both hands and a steady grip. He smiled for the first time in days. After class, Aina stayed behind. You're not like other teachers, she said. Darren looked up. Why do you say that? You actually look at people, like, really look. Most teachers here just read from screens and follow orders. Darren gave her a small nod. And what do you see when you look at me? Aina thought for a moment. You're hiding something, but not in a bad way. Darren smiled. Smart girl. She didn't smile back. Are you here because of Mr. Mika? Darren paused. He didn't expect the question. You knew him? He asked carefully. She nodded. He helped me when no one else did. He was kind. He tried to stop what was happening. And then he was gone. Darren felt a sharp pain in his chest, but he kept his face calm. I'm here to finish what he started, he said quietly. Ina looked into his eyes and nodded. "I'll help," she said. "Whatever you need." That evening, Darren met Ravi in the training yard. Ravi looked nervous. "Why did you call me here, sir?" "I want to show you something," Darren said. He placed a small foam pad on the ground. "Step on this. Close. Your eyes, take a deep breath. Hold your balance." Ravi did as he was told. He wobbled a little. Darren guided him gently. "Breathe through your nose. Feel the ground. Trust yourself." Minutes passed. Ravi's balance improved. "You're not weak," Darren said. "You've just never been trained." "Trained ... for what?" "To stand up," Darren replied. "Not just for yourself, but for others too." Ravi opened his eyes. His face was full of doubt, but also curiosity. Darren patted his shoulder. "Come again tomorrow." In the days that followed, more students began to change. Darren made each lesson about strength, not just of the body, but of the mind. He gave challenges that required teamwork. He praised quiet students when they tried. He asked bold ones to think deeper. He never punished with fear. He taught through discipline and calm. Soon, a small group of students began staying after class. Ravi, Ina, and 3 others. They called it extra learning, but it was more than that. Darren taught them how to stay balanced, how to breathe in stress, how to defend without violence. One day, Ravi asked, "Why are you teaching us this?" Darren answered simply, "Because someone once tried to protect you. Now it's your turn to protect others." Ravi looked down. "I'm not brave like him." "You don't need to be brave all the time," Darren said. "You just need to move when it matters." But not everyone liked the change. Taro noticed that Ravi was walking straighter. Ina was speaking louder. Even some of the quiet students had started asking questions in class. Rollo still, the silent leader of the bullies, watched from a distance. He didn't speak much, but his eyes were sharp. During one lunch break, Taro cornered Ravi near the lockers. "So little bug has grown wings," Taro sneered. "Been training with your new hero?" Ravi said nothing. Taro shoved him against the wall. "You think a few breathing lessons make you strong?" Before Taro could strike, Darren appeared. His voice was calm, but firm. "Step back." Taro turned, annoyed. "We're just talking, sir." "Then talk without your hands," Darren said. Taro stepped back slowly. "This is your first warning," Darren added. "There won't be a second." Taro walked off, but Darren knew he would return. The real fight was still ahead, later that night. Darren sat in his room reviewing new footage from the school's hidden cameras. He had placed small trackers in the hallways, lockers, and classrooms. The screen showed students being bullied, secrets being passed, and teachers walking by without care. He focused on one video. Rollo was in the tech lab, programming a small flying drone with sharp wings. Next to him was the head of security, watching and smiling. Darren saved the footage. He was building a wall of proof, one file at a time. The next morning, Darren brought a small drone to class. "Today's lesson is about machines and how they follow commands," he said. He showed the class how to control it. Then he asked a question. "What happens if someone uses machines to hurt others?" Ravi raised his hand. "Then the machine isn't to blame. The person is." "Exactly," Darren replied. "Machines only follow what we tell them." He looked around the room slowly. "But humans ... we choose what kind of person we want to be." Many students lowered their eyes, thinking. Rollo stared back, unblinking. That night, Darren added more names to his list. He marked connections between the bullies and certain teachers. He traced where the drones were bought, who signed the orders, and who ignored the reports. The web was wide, but not strong. He knew how to break systems like this. He had done it before on battlefields with real weapons. This time, the fight was different, but the mission was the same. Protect the weak, punish the wicked, finish what his brother started, and he would not fail. The week of the school tournament arrived. It was the biggest event of the year at Halden Prime Academy. Students from across the colony came to compete in games of skill, strength, and tech. Parents and guests were invited. The school halls were cleaned, banners were raised, and the tournament ground was decorated with lights and music. But beneath all the celebration, a silent battle was about to begin. Darren stood near the entrance gate, watching as families walked in. Drones flew above, capturing every moment. Rollo stood with his group at the center of the yard, shaking hands with officials. His father, the governor, was expected to visit later in the day. Darren had one goal: reveal the truth in front of everyone. He had already placed hidden cameras across the event area. He had hacked into the media drone feeds with the help of Ina and Ravi. He had given the students one job: record every illegal act, every cheat, and every abuse. This time, the bullies would be exposed. The tournament began with simple games, math contests, robot races, and strength trials. The crowd cheered as students competed with energy and joy. Then came the main event, the drone challenge. It was the most popular event. Students flew drones through an obstacle course, using skill and speed. But in recent years, it had become a game of power. Rollo's team always won, not by talent, but by cheating. They used upgraded drones with hidden weapons and signal jammers. No one ever dared to question it, but this time, Darren was ready. Ravi stood at the edge of the field, holding his small drone. It was simple but strong. Darren had helped him build it, without any tricks or illegal parts. "You don't have to win," Darren had told him earlier. "You just have to play fair. That's enough." Ravi nodded, gripping the controller with shaking hands. Rollo stepped up next, his silver drone shining with custom parts. His eyes met Ravi's for a second. He smirked. The match began. Drones lifted into the air, buzzing through rings and dodging obstacles. Ravi focused hard. He had trained for this. Halfway through the race, Rollo pressed a secret button on his controller. A small jammer activated. Ravi's drone began to shake. Its signal was disturbed. The crowd didn't notice. The screen only showed the race path, but Darren's hidden cameras saw it all. His tablet showed the signal spike from Rollo's controller. "Ina, record it," he whispered into his earpiece. "Already done," she replied. Ravi struggled but didn't give up. He guided the drone manually, using only basic visual signals. Slowly, he reached the final round. Then, one of Rollo's teammates launched a side drone, something not allowed in the rules. It flew close to Ravi's drone, trying to knock it down. The crowd gasped, but the judges said nothing. Darren clenched his fist. Now. With one press, he activated the feed switch. All screens around the event flickered. Then, the truth played. The first video showed Rollo's team adding hidden tools to their drones. The next video showed the dean accepting bribes from Rollo's father. Then came the final one. Mika's last message. His voice filled the air. "If anything happens to me, please don't stay silent. The school must be saved. The students need someone to stand up for them." The entire yard went silent. Students stopped. Teachers froze. Guests looked around, confused and shocked. Then whispers began. "Is that real? Was that the old teacher who died? I remember him. He helped my son." The judges looked at each other, unsure what to do. Rollo's face turned red. He shouted, "Turn it off. This is fake." But the screens kept playing. Video after video showed his team cheating, bullying, and hurting others. And then, the final blow, a short clip of the head of security warning Mika to stop or he'd be sorry. Rollo ran forward, pointing at Ravi. "This is his fault. He planned this with that fake teacher." Darren stepped onto the field, calm and tall. "I'm not fake," he said. "I'm Mika's brother." Gasps spread through the crowd. Rollo shouted, "He's not even a real teacher. Arrest him." The governor arrived just then, walking with pride. But when he saw the videos playing, his smile disappeared. "What is this?" he demanded. Darren turned to him. "This is the truth your son tried to bury. My brother died trying to stop it. Now everyone knows." Security officers arrived. The governor raised his voice. "This is a lie." But the crowd had seen enough. Parents stepped forward, angry and upset. Students pointed fingers. Teachers lowered their heads in shame. The school dean tried to escape, but officers stopped him. Within minutes, orders were given. Rollo and his group were taken into custody. The governor stood frozen, watching his empire fall apart. Later that day, Darren stood in Mika's old classroom. It was quiet again. Ravi and Ina walked in. "You did it," Ina said. "We did it." Darren shook his head. "We only told the truth." The real fight was standing up when no one else would. Ravi looked out the window. "What happens now?" "Now," Darren said. "Now the healing begins." That night, the news spread across Halden 4. Truth revealed at academy, teachers. Sacrifice exposes school corruption. Student heroes help uncover systemic abuse. Brother of late teacher ends years of silence. People across the colony talked about it. Other schools began reviewing their rules. Investigations were started, and Mika's name was remembered not as a victim, but as a hero. But for Darren, it wasn't over yet. He looked up at the stars again, just like his brother once did. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "You're not forgotten." And in that moment, he finally felt peace. The next morning, the atmosphere at Halden Prime Academy had completely changed. The wide halls that once echoed with silence were now filled with quiet conversations. Students moved in groups, whispering about what they had seen. Some looked worried, some confused, but many looked hopeful. Rollo and his group had been removed from the school the night before. The governor had left in anger. The school's head teacher and the head of security were under full investigation. News reporters waited outside the gates, trying to get statements from anyone willing to speak. Inside the academy, teachers sat together in the staff room, reading updates on their screens. No one dared to look Darren in the eye. He stood near the window, watching the sunrise over the colony buildings. For the first time in weeks, he felt his chest loosen. But he also knew one thing: the fight wasn't fully over. Not yet. Darren called for a special class that morning. He invited every student, not just his own. They all came. More than 100 students sat in the main hall. Some were the same. Ones who once ignored the bullying. Others had been victims themselves. Darren stepped up to the front. Ravi, Ina, and the small group who had trained with him stood behind. He spoke clearly, so every word could be heard. "Some of you are angry. Some are scared. Some don't know what to believe. That's okay." He paused, letting his voice settle in the room. "But now you know the truth, and truth brings choice." He looked across the crowd. "You can go back to silence, back to fear, or you can change this place for yourselves, for those who come after you." Ina stepped forward and raised her hand. "We want to help. Not just clean the school, but make it better." Another student stood up, then another. Soon, hands were rising across the room. Darren smiled. "Good, then let's begin." Later that day, Darren met with the temporary council sent by the colony. Leaders. They had been sent to review the school system after the scandal. Darren gave them every file, every message, every proof of corruption. The leader of the council, a calm woman named Arna, looked at Darren with respect. "You're not just a teacher," she said. "You're a soldier." Darren didn't answer. He just nodded. "You want a formal hearing? A trial against the governor and his son?" "No," Darren said. "I want change. Real change. For these students." "That's more important than revenge," Arna smiled. "Then you have our support." By the end of the week, major reforms began. A new acting principal was brought in. The teacher staff was reviewed, and many who had stayed silent were removed. or replaced. Students were invited to speak openly, without fear. Ravi and Ina were asked to join a new student voice council. It was the first of its kind on Halden-4. They accepted without hesitation. Darren watched proudly as Ravi stood in front of the school assembly, holding a speech he had written himself. For years, Ravi began, we were told to stay quiet. That power was always right. But we've learned that silence only helps the wrong people. He looked around at his fellow students. We're not weak. We're not alone, and we're not afraid anymore. The crowd clapped, some softly, some with loud cheers. Behind the scenes, Darren watched. His arms crossed. Mika would have smiled. He thought, outside the school walls, the news continued to spread. Other colonies began checking their school systems. Students on different planets shared stories of their own struggles. Messages of support came pouring in for the students of Halden Prime Academy. Mika's name appeared in headlines again, this time as a hero. A bronze plaque was placed near the school gate. It read, in memory of Mika, a teacher who stood for what was right. Darren stood before it one evening, his fingers brushing the smooth metal. He didn't die for nothing, he whispered. Despite the progress, not everything was easy. Some students still struggled with fear. Some teachers resisted the changes. There were debates, arguments, and moments of doubt. But now voices were heard. Solutions were found together. Mistakes were corrected. It was messy but real. Darren remained at the school, not as a soldier, but as a mentor. He refused a government medal. He refused interviews. He told the officials, I'm not here to be famous. I'm here to teach. And teach he did. One afternoon, Darren sat under the shade of a tall tree on the academy grounds. Ravi and Ina came to him with a box. What's this? Darren asked. A gift, Ina said. From all of us. Inside the box was a simple wooden frame. Inside it was a photo, a drawing made by one of the younger students. It showed Mika, standing beside Darren, with a group of smiling students in front of them. Above the drawing were the words, they tried to silence one, but they woke many. Darren stared at it for a long time. His eyes softened. Thank you, he said. That night, Darren sat alone in his room. The stars were bright outside his window. He thought about the war he had fought, the peace he had searched for, and the brother he had lost. He didn't smile much. But this time he did. A small one. Because for the first time in a long time, he felt something. He thought he had lost hope. The months after the scandal passed quietly, but meaningfully at Halden Prime Academy. Darren no longer walked the halls as just a new teacher. He was a trusted mentor, a guardian who had stood for what was right. The school had changed. New faces filled the classrooms, and old wounds began to heal. But for Darren, the journey was more personal. One morning, Darren entered the school's main hall. The air smelled fresh, like new books and hope. Ravi and Ina were already there, helping a group of younger students practice balance and focus exercises. Darren smiled. This was why he stayed. A young girl, no older than 10, looked up and waved. Mr. Darrow, she said. He nodded warmly. Good morning, Mira. She giggled and went back to her lesson. Later, Darren met with the new principal. Arna, you've done more than anyone expected, she said. The students respect you. The staff listens to you. Darren shrugged. I just did what I had to do, Arna smiled. And that was enough. She handed him a letter. Darren opened it carefully. It was an official offer to become the school's permanent counselor and special instructor, a role created to help students build confidence and strength without fear. He looked up. I accept. That evening, Darren walked to the small memorial garden behind the school. The bronze plaque with Mika's name shone softly under the setting sun. He knelt and placed a small flower by the base. Thank you for showing me the way, he whispered. In the distance, laughter and chatter came from the playground. Life was moving forward. One day, Ina came running to Darren with news. The council is creating a program to train teachers across the colony, teachers who will stand up like you did. Darren nodded thoughtfully. That's good. Change must spread. Ravi joined them. And they want me to help lead student groups on other colonies. Darren smiled. You'll do great. Just remember, courage isn't about being fearless. It's about moving forward even when you are. Weeks turned to months. The academy thrived. Students no longer whispered in fear, but spoke with confidence. Teachers found new respect for their role. Parents saw their children return home happier, and Darren found peace in knowing he had kept his promise to Mika. One afternoon, the school held a ceremony. Ravi spoke again, this time to a crowd of parents, teachers, and officials. We learned that strength is not in power or fear. It is in kindness, in standing together. He looked at Darren, who stood nearby. Thank you for reminding us all. After the ceremony, Darren walked outside. The sky was clear. The stars were beginning to shine. He took a deep breath and looked up. I'm done fighting the past, he said softly. Now it's time to build the future. He smiled, and for the first time he felt truly free. Night had fallen on Halden 4. The school grounds of Halden Prime Academy were quiet. Lights dimmed one by one. Students were in their dorms. Staff had gone home. Only the soft sound of cleaning bots filled the halls. Darren sat alone in his room. The glow of his tablet lit up the dark. On the screen were dozens of files, student reports, teacher logs, staff messages, and recorded footage. He had been collecting everything for weeks, but tonight was different. Ina had sent him a private message earlier. I found something. You need to see it. Meet me after lights out. Now in the hidden corner of the school library, Doreen waited. Ina arrived, quiet as a shadow, holding a small data chip. This was in Mr. Mika's locker, she whispered. I took it before they cleared his things. Darren took it with care, his hands steady, but his heart racing. Did you open it? He asked. Ina shook her head. It asked for a code. I didn't try anything else. Back in his room, Doreen plugged in the chip and typed a simple 6-letter word, Dumika. The screen blinked. The file opened. A video began. Mika sat at his desk, looking tired but determined. His classroom was empty behind him. This is for you, Darren, or whoever finds it. Mika began. His voice was calm, but his eyes were filled with pain. Things are worse than I thought. The bullying here isn't just some rich kids acting tough. It's part of a system, controlled, allowed. He leaned forward. Rollo is the leader, but it's not just him. The head teacher, the dean, even the head of security, they all protect him. They get money, favors, safety. Anyone who speaks against it is removed. Mika glanced at something off screen, then looked back. I tried to gather proof. I even went to the dean with a report. He smiled and told me to let it go. I recorded that meeting. I've saved it here. Darren clicked the second file. The video changed. Now the screen showed Mika standing in the dean's office. The dean, a tall man with gray hair and cold eyes, sat behind a desk. You have to stop this, Mika said. Students are getting hurt. You know what Rollo is doing. The dean leaned back, not angry, just amused. Mika, he said calmly, you're new to this world. Rollo's father funds half the school's systems. Do you really want to ruin your career for some foolish kids? This isn't about my career, Mika snapped. It's about what's right. The dean smiled. You're a good man, Mika, but good men don't last long here. I suggest you take some rest. You look tired. The video ended. Darren leaned back in his chair, hands clenched into fists. His brother had tried to do the right thing alone, and he had been silenced. But not anymore. Darren transferred all files onto a secure drive. Then he began writing a report. He labeled every student, every staff member involved. He added timestamps, screenshots, voice logs. This was no longer just a personal mission. It was justice. The next day, Darren walked into the school with quiet fire in his eyes. His class sat waiting, unaware that a storm was coming. He taught the lesson as usual, but in every word, he pushed a message. Truth always rises, even when buried deep. After class, Ravi stayed behind. "Sir," he said softly, "Ina told me about the video." "About your brother?" Darren nodded. "I'm sorry," Ravi said. "He helped me too. I remember. One time I was crying near the lab and he sat with me, just talked. No one ever did that before." Darren smiled gently. "He believed in you." Ravi looked down. "I want to help. Really help." "You already are," Garin replied. Later in the hidden training room, Darren gathered his small team: Ravi, Ina, and 3 others. He showed them parts of Mika's message. Their faces turned serious. "Everything happening here," Darren said, "was known, aloud. Now we have proof." "What do we do with it?" Ina asked. "We use it, but not yet. We need the right moment." "What kind of moment?" Ravi asked. Darren looked at the calendar on the wall. "The school tournament. 1 week from now. Rollo and his group will be there, in front of students, staff, and media." He turned back to them. "That's when we show the truth." For the next few days, Darren worked like a ghost. He planted hidden cameras near the drone lab, the locker rooms, and the head office. He collected voice samples, fingerprint logs, and security key access. Every step he took was silent but sharp. He trained his small team in secret, giving them more confidence, sharper minds, and stronger hearts. He told them not to fight with fists but with facts, truth, and courage, and he kept watching Rollo. The boy still walked with pride, surrounded by his gang. He laughed, ordered, and mocked. But Darren noticed something new. Rollo was watching him too. The game had begun, 3 nights before the tournament. Darren was walking back to his room when he heard a beep from his tablet. New message. Unknown sender. "You're digging too deep, teacher. Leave now. Or join your brother." Darren stared at the words. His jaw tightened. He typed one reply. "You should have left him alone." Then he deleted the message. He knew they were getting nervous. That meant the plan was working. Darren sat by his window, looking out at the stars. The same stars Mika once looked at. "I won't let you be forgotten," he whispered. "I'll finish what you started." The wind outside was cold. The school behind him was still full of secrets. But soon, the world would know the truth, and nothing would be the same again.